Okay, everybody, I'll call this meeting to order. First item of business tonight is a public hearing for the 23-27 Capital Improvement Program. Normally we'll kick this off by having staff give a presentation, just a brief overview, and then council will ask some questions. So, Mr. Nestica?
Sure. As you know, every August we prepare for our capital improvement program, a 5-year outlook. JC's been working pretty hard on the overall presentation as well as the 5-year program itself. So I'll turn it over to her and she'll give you a rundown of what it entails. As you know, it's an extension of what we've been doing for a number of years here in the municipality. So at this point, I'll turn it over to the finance director for her presentation.
Hi, Mayor and Council. Just bear with me one moment because we have a presentation.
Over here. Do you want me to move on this side?
Yeah, that way people can. Thank you. Hi, everybody. So as you know, this is the normal go-around that we go through every year that deals with the 5-year plan. I hope everybody had a chance to review everything. And thank you for the opportunity to present it tonight. So the first slide that you see is the overview of the 5-year plan that we have. Overall, the total expenditures for the 5-year plan encompass $21,504,410, of which it includes the improvements to the infrastructure, the municipal parks and facilities, and the purchases of vehicles and equipment for the police and public works department. 72% of the overall expenditures are for the overlay and street and infrastructure projects that we have in place. Some of the priority roads that were proposed to be done in the 5 years include Westertown School Road, Logan's Ferry, Bulltown, from Sardis to Ramalli, Pleasant Valley and Sardis Road from School Road to Maymont. In addition, engineering design and construction of the Logan's Ferry, Heather Highland Bridge, and Kelcam Bridges estimate to be $4.1 million. Road surface and crack sealing treatments of the roadways are estimated to cost about $1.125 million. The second category that we usually budget things into is the building and land and equipment, of which 19% of the proposed projects land in this category. In these projects, we have the building and maintenance of the facilities, which include replacing the failing sidewalks at the administration and library building, and also the repair and resurfacing of the public works facility parking lot. The future facility repairs are not yet to be determined for the last 3 years, but we know that there's always something that needs to be updated. So we'll reevaluate those as we move through the years of the CIPs. In addition to that, we also budget any replacement vehicles in this category, and all the vehicles and equipment run through a lifespan of 12 to 15 years, and we cycle through them. So we replace them as that cycle runs through. In this plan, we propose 12 police vehicles and equipment getting replaced through their life cycles, 12 public works vehicles. There's also some public works support equipment that includes trailers and mowers, and we have 1 public work heavy equipment that is included in this project, as well as a code enforcement vehicle. The third category that we have throughout the projects of the 5 years are relating to the parks and the demolition, the DCED demolition? Community development demolition projects. Excuse me one second. The parks and other projects compose about 9% of the expenditures through the 5 years. These include municipal parks that are scheduled for updates and repairs for the development. They address maintenance issues in various parks and also replacing playground equipment through the park surveys that we've been dealing with. So we assess those as we go through the park surveys. If you want to turn to the next slide, we can talk a little bit about the proposed funding. So the proposed funding, thank you. The proposed funding has dedicated millage at 3.2 mils, which is roughly $1.97 million annually. This is pretty consistent throughout all 5 years. In addition, we also added in the real estate transfer tax, which is able to support the capital improvement program at approximately $695,000 annually. The liquid fuels allocation has been decreasing at about a 2% per year. So the additional fundage that came in through the real estate will help offset some of those decreased funds that we get through the state. In addition to that, we have grants that are coming through that help support all of the park projects that we have through the DCNR, the Growing Greener grants that will help support some of the trail repairs, alongside of, we have some.
You see it? You all right?
Alongside, oh, thank you.
No, you're okay.
It's a lot easier to see down.
You can see it better. I mentioned the TIP grant because that's a substantial amount.
Oh, yes. So we have 3 bridge projects coming through that we've been preparing for and we've been planning for. And we have some support that we believe that we're going to be able to get through the TIP grant, which is the traffic improvement program. Traffic improvement program. So that's going to be able to support a lot of the big bridge projects that we have coming through at about 95% of the cost, which is phenomenal. And we also have a couple donations coming in that are helping to support the MCP amphitheater project.
Go to the next one.
Yes, please. The next slide details down on what is proposed for next year's CIP, which includes the overlay, the road surface treatments, crack sealing at the MS4. We have replacement vehicles that were due to be scheduled and replaced, which include 2 police vehicles, a dump truck, a 5-ton dump truck, a mower, and the additional MCP that would be needed to support the project over there, and park improvements. I'm sure everybody had a chance to look over everything. Were there any questions that arose while reviewing over the CIP program that I can help with? I mean, presented, we were able to fund all the projects that were presented. It's a balanced budget. Everything's worked smoothly throughout the years, and we were able to put into the reserves where we felt we needed to be able to reserve money for future projects.
Just so I understand correctly then, as far as Logan's Ferry Road, we're going to be doing some resurfacing of Logan's Ferry. Is that correct? That goes back. And my question is, that's the case, but we're also going to be in that area looking at putting the bridge, and also, I believe there'll be a connection.
The Heather Highlands, Logan's Ferry Bridge?
Yeah, but that bridge actually doesn't connect to Logan's Ferry, I don't think.
Are you talking about the bridge, like, up in Heather Highlands that we
No.
replaced? You're talking about the one that's down by, like,
Yes.
Sardis, by the,
Sardis,
not
by the
Sardis,
fire
by the
hall.
fire hall.
Right.
And Medic 1.
Well, Logan's Ferry is proposed to be a complete overlay in 2024. So that's not directly next year, but we do have it that it's going to be overlaid. It's not just going to be a road surface or crack seal. That's actually due to be a priority road that's going to be a part of the overlay program.
Okay.
So that's slated for 2024.
And just the approximate length of Logan Ferry, do you know what?
That's a really good question. Let me see if we have it noted in here. 18,000 feet. Thank you, Jim.
3.4.
Or 3.1.
Okay.
And then as for the bridges, if you would turn to the 2023 to 2027, I don't know if you have your CIP book with you.
Yeah.
Which page though, JC?
What page?
It's,
Probably on page 23, is that where you're looking? Oh, no, you're going into the budget itself.
I'm going to the budget itself, yes.
Is it 23?
I just want to make sure that I'm giving the correct year. So the Logan's Ferry Heather Highland Bridge project is slated to be done in 2024. I know that's not going to be completed in 1 year. That'll probably span over a few years since it's such a large project. And I do know that since the TIP program is going to be supporting it, there might be some fluctuation on the dates as well. Jim or Michael might be able to better address that for you.
Maybe it's here. No.
You know,
Okay, that's it, yeah. It's no,
So, I mean, what's the question? Is when will that project commence? Is that what your question was, or?
I just want to make sure, like, in the funding of it, there's not redundancy, meaning there's going to be so much money allocated to a Logan's Ferry, and then we're not going to rip up work that's already been done.
That's right.
That's the simple question.
And I would-
I think the answer is yes, but I'm looking for affirmation.
well, when we do, every year PennDOT comes through and they do an evaluation of the bridges.
Right.
When they do that evaluation, you'll see a line item that says for bridge repairs. Typically, those range about $50,000. So we put money in to keep up on those. Now, the complete overhaul is due to start in 2024, but as for redundancy when it comes to
Yeah,
budgeting, we have money budgeted. A lot of times you don't get that full grant amount up front. So you have to be able to put money into something and then you get reimbursed costs, or it just takes a while to get the whole project to the point where you can get.
My concern, or my question, it's not even a concern because I think it's going to be taken care of, but if you're going to be putting in an entire new bridge, you're going to have construction vehicles running up and down Logan's Ferry. So is it going to be running up and down over something we've just taken care of?
Jim,
I think
could
the
you-
answer is no, but I'd like for,
You're correct. If you recall, I think it was probably about 8 years ago, we took portions of Logan's Ferry back from the state. This is, I believe, the length that is going to get repaired. So typically, we've done Logan's Ferry in 2 sections for repaving, essentially from Gun Club down and then from Gun Club up to the plumb line. This would be for that section, the upper section.
okay. Which has nothing to do with the bridge, really.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Can
Jim.
you remind me, Jim or Jason, Michael, if you know, we had talked about realigning that bridge. We had a lot of issues with that intersection, the traffic. I know I was part of the traffic study a couple of years ago, and I think we kind of just paused it with everything because there's so many challenges and impacts to the community and traffic, no matter how we try to look at that. Where do we stand with that right now?
Well, there was 2 looks at it. One was a total realignment of elimination of that bridge down there, and then beefing up Heather Highland and redirecting the traffic back through. That didn't seem to have a whole lot of support. So we had the engineers take a look at repairing the bridge in place, and there were several options looked at there. And what it was determined, and I think we presented this several months ago, the alternatives for Logan's Ferry Bridge and Kilcan, the other one, Heather Highlands, was to try to replace beams in place there to get approximately another 50 years out of those bridges. So that's the direction that we're working in now. And we'll be working with our local elected officials, state representatives, to get that on the TIP program with that recommendation to repair in place.
Thank you.
Okay.
I guess my one question is, I see on here that the amphitheater, bathrooms, and parking lot is in at about $800,000. Now, I thought that was kind of the price before we hit all these supply chain issues.
Well, we had money that was already in the prior budgets that was approved. So a lot of the upcoming costs were all just relating to the inflation.
Okay.
But rolled in here were also the new funding support that were offered through the DCED. So even though that increase has happened, I've also reflected the probable funding that we're going to be getting through the DCED. So this is just adding to those prior ones that were earmarked in the budget. I didn't go back and amend prior ones because it was already in the budget. So we kept that in there, and then the new proposed amounts were the inflated.
I think one other aspect, and Jim could probably touch on it a little bit better than I could, but I think there's some in-kind work that the Public Works Department has either already completed or is planning on doing that's going to help offset some of that cost. So even though the price has, the dollar amount has increased on that project, I think that we've identified some areas where our Public Works can maybe take on some of those necessary installations or improvements to help offset some of that increase in the costs. And again, I don't want to keep turning everything over to Jim, but obviously I think he's going to be able to speak to it a little bit more directly.
We have an investment out there already, the sewer and the water lines out there, so those are already prior year expenditures. The $813,000 essentially represents the reapplication for grant funds from DCNR, which was approximately $623,000, and then another $220,000, which will be a grant application submitted to the Community Development Block Grant for the restroom. So those numbers represent grant monies that will be used to essentially put in the amphitheater and the support around that amphitheater. We're also pursuing some alternatives to get the road put in, which we wouldn't have any expense on. And also, we've received some gifts, as J.C. had mentioned, that are now sitting in the foundation that are to be used for MCP. So this is a portion of the total amount, either not completed or represents the grant money applied for to complete the project.
Okay, so, I mean, one, I'm hearing there's still some balls up in the air, but it sounds like we're getting a lot more grant money for this. Originally, I think it was $400,000. Now we're almost at $1 million, maybe.
It was two something. But yes, you're right. We have a lot of balls in there, and we've looked to try to offset as much local share into that project as possible.
Okay, awesome, wonderful. Matt?
No, okay.
Questions from council?
I have, first off, thank you very much, JC and staff. This is very, I know it was a lot of work for you, and it's very comprehensive. Couple questions I had. Is there any technology that would be needed in the municipality? Like do you plan for these computers or the back-end office upgrades at all? Or is that handled in some other fund?
Well, at this point, we do not have any big plans for upgrading any technology that is in excess of $10,000. So it's not included in here. We do typically deal with minor upgrades on a year-to-year basis, but since they're minor, they don't normally land in the capital improvement program. They typically fall into the general fund because it's just a minor upkeep.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
And this is just for my own background. I see we maintain the median of Route 22, a state road.
Yes.
How did that come about? Or is that normal?
Well, the history, Jim can tell you more about. But from my end of things, we have a certain amount that's specifically earmarked that was given to the municipality for support of the Route 22 medians. And this was done years ago through council. It was a project. Now, these funds are, the expenses to keep up on the medians have increased a little bit. So towards the end of the 5-year capital plan, we will need to be able to give local funding to be able to support the medians. But for the next, I think, 3 or 4 years, those reserves that were earmarked specifically for that project are available.
Okay, thank you.
There's a history there. When 22 was put in, there was a push by previous councils and mayors to try to beautify the highway. Not only did the municipality make a commitment to get planting areas in the medians there because they were going to all be concrete, but they also had reserved a large amount of funds to put the light standards in so the green powder-coated light standards. Those were not a part of the original PennDOT design. So because this is a maintenance item, usually the general fund sends the money to the capital reserve for those maintenance items on those medians. We've gone through a number of years with that. We will continue to support them because that was our commitment to PennDOT and to the community by the future council,
Okay.
or past councils, I'm sorry.
Thank you. And then the last question, just because the equipment, I was browsing through the equipment section, and 12 police cars. So we buy the police cars and get rid of them around 80,000. We'd use them in a municipality or sell them off. Is that how that works?
So typically, it goes through the normal rotation of the vehicles, and I believe it's under $100,000 miles, so 80 to 100,000, they rotate it out. If it is available, we switch those vehicles, and we use that for the administrative or another area in the municipality that we could utilize that vehicle.
Okay.
One of the, just to kind of piggyback on that, one positive thing is now that, as I understand it, I think our fleet, the next set of vehicles that we order in will kind of match the ones we currently have. So we won't have to upfit those. We'll be able to use some of the same equipment that we have currently in our vehicles. So that'll help at least offset some of those costs. As you know, every time we buy a vehicle, then you have the additional cost to upfit it and things like that. So it's nice that the new vehicles that we're going to be purchasing will match the ones that we currently have.
Oh, great.
Just on that, Michael, just a quick thing. I have a part-time job with Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and I know that a couple different times we've taken fully equipped police cars from, it's out in Blairsville. I forget, there's a big complex of automotives out there. At any rate, and we deliver them to Westmoreland County. So therefore, they're being leased by the county from Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So I've seen that. Is that a possible? It's possible, but is there any insight you could share on that?
If he's standing up, I'll maybe just turn it over and we'll see what that answer is.
Typically, when we rotate the police vehicles through the administration, parks, or code enforcement, we run them until the wheels are off. The other vehicles, and then at that point, we put them up for auction through municipal bid. It used to be that taxi companies from New York used to take all those police cars, and they'd run them for another 100,000 miles in New York City as cabs. But now they seem to have gotten away with it because now we're using SUVs. That's the only type of police vehicle you can get. So we run them through here. When they no longer become when they become a burden for us mechanically, we then send them to municipal bid.
Well, that's what we do, but the question, have we looked at leasing?
Leasing them to other parties?
Leasing them from...
leasing the new police cars?
Yep.
No, we have not. No, we have not. But in order to lease, we have to incur debt, which requires municipal action.
My comment would just be there is, well, the county does it, and that doesn't mean we should do it, but maybe that's something we can...
Yeah, we
look at.
certainly can explore it.
Okay.
Are there any other questions that I could?
JC, you mentioned the reduction in liquid fuels allocation. How substantial was that reduction, and kind of why, maybe?
It's been progressively reducing. Right now, I estimated about a 2% per year, and that was mainly due to the fuel-efficient vehicles and the reduced amount of driving that the roadway is. So we get liquid fuels from the state, and it's a part of the fuel tax. So when you go to the pump, you pay part of your taxes, and it goes to the state, and they allocate that out based on the mileage of roadways that you have in a municipality.
Right.
So if people are driving less, or they have a more efficient fuel vehicle, they pay less into those taxes.
Right.
And in turn, those taxes are less divided up between the municipalities.
Right.
So it's not that they're purposely cutting it, it's more or less just those.
And it's not something here in Murrysville, it's more just across
No,
the
it's-
board,
it's
everyone's
across the
seeing that. Okay.
Yeah, but we're seeing typically, I mean,
What about it?
2-3%.
Yeah, which is substantial.
Can be, yeah.
Okay.
Have we given any thought to the electric vehicles that'll be coming, or
We
is
have
that
not.
practical, electric vehicles?
That's never been brought up before. I don't think anybody's looked into electric vehicles. I don't know if it would be beneficial or not, but that's something we could look into. I can talk to a couple people.
Not that I want to, but just a question if we have to go to them someday, that's all.
I think as of right now, we are just looking at the
Okay.
gas-powered vehicles, but I can always look into that if it's something that you guys want me to look into.
In addition to that, it may even be a segue toward that, the hybrid vehicles where, when they're going under a certain speed, then they're battery powered. They do have hybrid police vehicles. I don't know if they offer EV, electric police vehicles, but again, as JC said, something we could certainly look into and talk with the chief about. There may be reasons why that may not be feasible, and it may have even been explored in the past, I don't know, but certainly hybrid options do exist within many municipalities, municipal police departments.
I was just wondering with the new legislation that just came out and all the incentives that they're going to be given to municipalities and townships and so on, if we may be forced to get electric vehicles down the road.
Well, a couple of things. One is that we buy very few vehicles other than police vehicles as we cycle them through. The other is we went down the process of looking at propane when that was fashionable, so the police weren't real keen to that. But again, the type of vehicle we buy for the police department is SUVs because of the amount of equipment that are in there and the amount of equipment that they have to carry. So certainly worth a look whenever they provide an SUV that can run like a V8, and that will be the alternative to look at.
I agree. Thank you.
So I wanted to switch a little bit and talk about the new funding sources that we had planned and brought in with the earned income tax and the real estate transfer tax. And I know you don't have a crystal ball. With COVID, we've seen some really strange impacts to the housing prices as well as the interest rates for houses. Do you have any sense, or is there any sense kind of out there for communities like ours, what that impact might look like, what we might be anticipating just because of, we picked it as a new budget source to help support us? And
Well, as we've already seen that the real estate tax has been progressively just going down over the time, which is why we looked into the transfer tax. As for this last year, it was relatively successful, but that might have been due to the low interest rates and
The house
people coming into the area. So, I mean, we haven't seen a negative reaction from that on our side. Actually, it's been doing very well this year with the amount of people that are wanting to either refinance or move into the area. But it's always been somewhat solid numbers, so I don't think that we're going to have too many downfalls when it comes to that in this area. We're in a pretty desirable area. I mean, I like to think that people, are all about coming here. So I certainly hope that that's not going to be.
so with the shifts in the market and the interest rate, we're still believing that it will be a good source for us.
I believe so at this point. We are, as of right now, I haven't seen any negative impact on a month-to-month basis at this point.
Final questions or concerns from anyone? Okay.
I just want to say I think we're really blessed to be able to have both JC and Michael here. It's really difficult to come into a community and to present something of this scale to a municipality like ours when you don't have all of the historical context. I appreciate that you were still able to, like the history with the 22 median, you still had looked into it and showing us that you examined each facet of this. And I also appreciate that Mr. Morrison is still here. A lot of communities are not blessed to be able to have that extra resource. So thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Jamie. That means a lot.
Okay. Yeah, and I just echo those sentiments. I mean, this is such a great document to have, It really lets you see where we're at and where we're going. So thanks a lot for your hard work.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So with that being said, no final questions or concerns. We will end the public hearing for the capital improvements program. Could I have a motion to close the hearing?
Motion to close the hearing?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Now, call to order our regular voting meeting. I have a roll call, please.
Mr. Stepanovich,
Here?
Mr. Dice,
Here.
Mr. Spadaro,
Here.
Mr. Lemak,
Here.
Mrs. Ling, Mr. McKenna,
Here.
Dr. Lee Corns,
Here.
Mayor Sinan.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Mr. Nestico, do we have any unlisted amendments this evening?
Oh, there are no unlisted amendments.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to our consent calendar items. Are there any questions or concerns about the consent calendar items? Okay, I would just note that I'll be abstaining from any payments to KU Resources. Can I have a motion, please?
A motion to approve the consent calendar items?
Second.
Thank you, Tony and Jason. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Or opposed? Yeah. That brings us to comments by the mayor. Mayor?
Thanks, Mr. Dice. We have our slides for the evening.
Knock on the door, maybe? There we go.
There we
We're
go,
good.
they're there.
We're all set.
Magic. First slide up tonight is Franklin Regional School District Kindergarten Open House. Incoming kindergarten families in the Franklin Regional School District are invited to attend a Rockin' into Kindergarten program and open house at 6 p.m. August 18th at the district's primary school, 4121 Sardis Road. That's Sloan for you old-timers. Families can tour this new school and meet teachers and classmates. Kindergarten will also have a staggered start as the school year begins August 24th to 26th. Families can sign up for a start date at the open house. The first full day of kindergarten for all kids will be August 29th. For more information, call 724-327-5456. Next up, the Rotary Club of Murrysville Export is having a car show on Saturday, August 27th, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Lamplighter Restaurant, Route 22, benefits Rotary's local community charities. Welcome to all vehicles, special interest, classic muscle cars, and antiques. The first 150 entries to receive a dash plaque with a $10 entry donation. Also, they're having a Corvette raffle. I believe that's a 1984 Corvette, I was told. Drawing on October 1st. They're still selling tickets for that. One of the Rotary Club members had actually donated that. DJ refreshments, auction baskets 50/50. For additional info, call Jim Lozeski at 724-519-7369. The next slide, the Lions are having a car show hosted by the Delmont Murrysville Lions Club Sunday, August 28th from 1 to 4 p.m. Or I'm sorry, 11 to 4 p.m. Snyder Don's Wealth Management is the sponsor. Rain or shine, donation $10. Trophies, dash plaques to the first 100. Basket raffle 50/50. Food and drinks available. Entertainment by DJ Larry. Bring your friends, family, neighbors for a fun-filled day. Do not bring your pets. It's at the Delmont Fire Department, Route 66. Enter from Abbey Place Road. No entry from Route 66. The three-part sports series in Pittsburgh is still continuing. Tuesday, August 30th here, Western Pennsylvania Sports Museum. What a story they have to tell. Again, it's here at the Municipal Building, 4100 Sardis Road. For more info, you can see it at murrysvilleparecreation.com or dial in the municipal number 327-2100 extension 131. And the Murrysville Farmers Market continues through September, Thursdays 3 to 7 p.m. down at the Firehouse Medic 1 field. Again, any questions, 327-2100 extension 131 or 115. Just keep the rain away. That concludes my message.
Thank you, Mayor. That brings us to comments by the Chief Administrator. Mr. Nestico?
Just one comment for the month. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court denied the Murrysville Watch petition. So that ongoing litigation that was up towards the Supreme Court has been denied. So council will be pleased to know that that may stifle that lawsuit. And certainly we can talk with the solicitor about any follow-up from that. So that's all for this month.
Wonderful, thank you. That brings us to community input. Is there anyone here? No need to get it out. Anyone here wants to give community input? No. Okay, that brings us to liaison comments and committee reports. Let's start on this end. Jason?
Yes, the library meets tomorrow evening. However, Amy did give me a couple points. On August 22nd, between 6:30 and 7:30, Native Plants for the Garden is a program going on in the library's tech area. Presentation on the best native plants to incorporate into your garden. And then August 30th, in the council chambers, we have a story to tell. The PA Sports Museum will be here highlighting the different levels of achievement and success Pittsburgh has had in a variety of sports.
Awesome, thank you. Carl?
Yes, the Planning Commission met last Tuesday. One of the items on the agenda was the Dollar General store, and I know we have a gentleman from Dollar General who will be talking about today. I think the best way is to identify what occurred is the summary by the Planning Department, and that was that the traffic input study is actually, it's been ruled by PennDOT not required. There will be evidence of state and local permits, which is certainly the case. Evidence of pertinent utility, and this is part of the continual, not continual, but conditional use items. And the applicant is to provide a final plan. There is going to be a discussion about the parking, and this is something that I wasn't quite clear on, and I know that he'll be able to clarify that with us, the Dollar General gentleman. And there will be a developer's agreement, and that there will be landscaping. There is going to be a waiver requested, and that has to do with the glazing on the building. And in summary, what it was indicated was that there's a right side and the back of the building, there isn't anybody there. There's a lot of forest and so forth, and it looks like there's a legitimate reason for the waiver. So, okay, there is going to be or could be, a pet crematorium in Murrysville. I might mention that the location is up Mellon Road, if you will. You would think of it behind what was the formerly Spaghetti House. It's an existing structure. The company that is conducting this, or who would basically operate it, is Gateway Enterprises. It's actually called Gateway Enterprises. At any rate, there's a lot of positive information provided in their brochure, as you might expect, and I'm going to pass this around the council, and it is in the Dropbox, so you'll see that. A couple items, though, I think would be interesting. Now, one, as far as supporting this, there were some local businessmen who are well known in the community. The Sampson Group, and basically their executive VP, Brian Sinan, was here. Jim Rumbaugh, a longtime developer, is part of a group supporting this. And the attorney for the group is Wes Long, who is a well-established attorney in the community. There, of course, it was a request for the application be accepted and also for a public hearing, and that was agreed to. One interesting thing I found in this document was that 1 in 6 veterinary professionals attempt suicide, which is something that's really surprising. Well, consider suicide. And they go in detail, this group right here, saying, why is that? What can we do to alleviate this? And people dealing with grief and people's grief with their pets, that's what you see. There was also the subject, Lions Run Mine Acid Reclamation. And just on that, there will be a public hearing on that. The scope of it is 7,500 cubic yards of earthwork, and that's in the Lions Run area. And that's it.
Thank you. Tony?
Medic 1 meets tomorrow night.
Yes, you can.
FTMSA meets tomorrow as well. Jamie?
In terms of our pension. In terms of our pension plan, it hasn't gone great recently. While June was our worst month, on the bright side, July was our best month so far. So we recovered 93% of the loss that we had in June. So,
Okay, wonderful.
that's extreme.
Yeah, great news. Matt?
Parks and Recreation met this week, and the major discussion on that, number one, from what I understand, all the feedback on the community days out at the MCP, the concert, and the fireworks were fantastic. Everyone seemed like they had a great time, good weather. So the bands were great, fireworks were great. So thank you so much to the staff, police, volunteers, everyone that helped. I know a lot of the Parks and Recreation and Foundation people put a lot of work into that too. So big thank you from the community and from me for that. Thank you. The big discussion as far as the Parks and Recreation is the neighborhood park project. That was the major discussion there. There were visits to each of the neighborhood parks and just trying to consider easy, cost-effective potential improvements and amenities that could be added to the park. We reviewed and selected some of them at the meeting, and just some of the ones that came about were bench swings in some of the parks. Some of it was park art, both concrete and metal. Some people may have seen, I think in Greensburg, there's one where there are those metal sculptures, things like that to add into the parks. A couple cool ones were like the big baseballs and basketballs that are like concrete or metal of some sort that they just kind of add a good eye catch to some of the parks. So that was another thing that was looked at. We're looking at some of the enclosed fenced-in areas for basketball courts and whatnot to add painted areas for young children to learn how to ride bikes on. So that's kind of already there. Just adding that would allow some of the parents to have a safe place to teach the kids how to ride bikes a little bit better. Looked at some nature play areas in some of the parks that have trails and things like that in them. And also some concrete game tables, which are pretty neat. Chessboards, checkerboards that are built in concrete that would be out there. Some of those larger ones, and obviously a big one from the community we get's pickleball. So they're looking at some of the options on some of the non-used basketball courts and different things where we already have an area established that we may be able to transfer those or add pickleball courts to. So all of that's being priced out and taken a look at. We're also going to be doing the trail stencil painting. We're looking to do that here in August and September. We're just kind of have to get good weather. So it's sort of going to be a last minute, that week of what day we can do it because it has to be good weather for that to be done. So we should get those trail stencils in. And that's pretty much it.
All right, awesome. Thank you. That brings us to our workshop items. Is there any questions or concerns about the capital improvements program? Okay, hearing none, we will move on. That brings us to community development, where we have a discussion concerning an application for a major land development in regards to a Dollar General on Route 66. Mr. Nestico?
Yes, I believe at this time I may turn it over to Mr. Bob Gage to present to council his presentation regarding the Dollar General development.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Bob Gage. I'm with GBT Realty. We are a development firm out of Nashville, Tennessee. We are here proposing to construct a 10,640 square foot Dollar General. Is everybody familiar with the location? that we are looking at. It is on the northeast side of Freeport Road, State Route 66, immediately across from Ringertown Road. The property that we're looking at is one existing tract comprised of two separate tracts totaling 2.83 acres. There is approximately 1/3 of that existing property that's located in the Salem Township. It's basically the backside of the parcel. So we're split in half between your municipality and Salem Township. We are, early on, it was determined that everything would go through this municipality, and Salem Township basically turned everything over to your group. So what we're proposing is a 10,640 square foot retail store, access drive, parking lot, utilities, and associated stormwater management facility. Now, we were here on 8/9 through the Planning Commission, and as one of the councilmen mentioned earlier, we did get a recommendation for approval with 10 conditions. We don't have any issues with any of the conditions. I believe that we can hit everything. One of them was Pennsylvania Department of Transportation Highway Department permit, HOP permit, and that will include the installation of a 125-foot long southbound left turning lane, along with clearing of an embankment to the north of the parcel to open up the sight lines, basically, is what they are requiring us to do, and we will adhere to that. The second one was a traffic impact study. We did do that. We have submitted that. Basically, it's going to have a very slight impact on the traffic on the road. Our entrance will be coming onto 66 directly across from Ringertown Road, which I believe it increases the wait time coming out of Ringertown Road by 20 seconds. So it's a very, very small impact. We don't hit the levels of requiring a traffic light or anything other than the left turn lane on 66. Let's see, the third condition was to provide evidence of all state and local permits as soon as they are secured, and we will do that. Fourth one is evidence of service of all pertinent utilities. We are in the process of getting those will serve letters together now. I believe we do have some of them, as a matter of fact. We just don't have all of them in place yet. But we don't anticipate any issues with any of that. Number 5 was to provide an 8-foot wide planting strip of continuous evergreen plantings at a minimum of a height of 4 feet at the time of planting. So there was quite a bit of discussion on that topic. What we had originally proposed was to reduce that 8-foot wide strip to 4 feet wide, just because of the grading and the way that the stormwater is reacting to the design on site. We did request to reduce that 8-foot wide planting strip to 4 feet wide and reduce the height of the plantings when they were planted. We went back and forth several times. At the end of the day, it was determined by the Planning Commission that we needed to have 4 feet high whenever we planted. Since that meeting, my engineer has, I think, contacted every landscape supplier in town, and we cannot get any of the shrubs, bushes that we're talking about at 4 feet high at the time of planting. I did bring some information on what we were proposing to install. And basically, it is boxwoods and inkberry, a combination of the two. I've got some information here, literature on both of those. If you guys would like to see that, you're more than welcome to peruse this. But essentially what it says is whenever they mature, they will mature at between 4 and 5 feet. So what I'd like to ask you is if you would allow us to get the largest ones that we can find, and we will plant them in that 4-foot strip along the perimeter of the parking lot, and they will eventually get to the point to where you are requiring them to be now. We just can't, they're just not available. Let's see, number 6 is the building design waiver. And Mike, do you have this, the exterior elevations?
Yeah, that's, which folder is that in on here? Oh, under this current meeting, okay, I apologize.
Okay, so what we did, we presented two different scenarios, exterior elevation options, I guess you would say, for the exterior of the store. And, okay, so that was one. This was, the one that's on the screen now is one of the options that was actually rejected. The one that the Planning Commission wanted or liked
Bear with me here.
is the next one. And this next one does meet all of your ordinances regarding the glazing requirement, the alternate materials, the breakup of the long walls with the pilasters. So it meets everything on this wall and on the,
Pass this down.
I believe that's the west side. Is that the west side? I believe that's the west side. The north and the west side, yes. So this is the west. The north side would be the wall on the left side of that photograph, or that.
What side is the bike trail going to be on?
The west side.
Okay.
The side where we're proposing to do the same scenario on those two walls.
Okay, great.
So what we were asking for was relief in the other two walls of the building, one of them being the south wall, which basically there's a very large bank there and a very heavily forested area on that side. There's nothing behind us. I believe that there is a cabinet business behind us. Is it cabinet or truss business behind us? So their loading dock basically faces the back of our building. So we were asking for relief on those two sides of the building. The Planning Commission did agree that that was, it made sense to grant that request. Is there any discussion? Do you want to talk about this at all? Do you guys like this elevation?
Yeah, second definitely looks better, but questions or concerns from council?
I got a question for you. I have a concern about the, now I don't know if I heard you say it or not, or maybe you didn't say it.
Okay.
But that left turn,
Yes.
you said you have a proposed left turn. Is it approved by PennDOT yet?
PennDOT is requiring it, yes.
They already approved it?
Per the traffic study, they are requiring us to install that 125.
Okay. As you said, it's proposed here. I didn't know if it was approved.
Well,
or-
that's what, after the traffic study and after the initial submittal to DOT, we are proposing to do what they are asking us to do.
And a 125-foot stacking lane.
Correct.
Okay.
So it'll taper. I believe the stacking lane is only 5 cars, and then 125 feet will taper back into the road.
That's a fast road. You need that.
That's what we
Okay.
keep hearing. There's a lot of fast traffic there. That was the only leg of the
How many car stack was that?
I believe it's 5.
5.
But I'm not 100% sure. It's in the traffic study. If you have a copy of that and you would like to research that a little bit more, we did provide that information. Or I could dig it up right now if you'd like.
It's okay.
Okay, so that was the exteriors. The seventh condition is identify 4 parking places. So long and the short of this is that we were originally proposing 43 parking spaces, which meets your ordinance. It was brought up at the meeting that 4 of the parking spaces on the north side of the building would be blocked by the delivery truck at time of delivery. So they gave us 2 options. One, we could post those 4 parking spaces with employee-only parking signs, or we could reduce the number of parking spaces and provide a parking study. And that's the option that we've gone for. And we did submit a parking study. I guess everybody has it. Hopefully everybody's seen that. Basically what it says is this store will generate 10 cars per hour from the time it opens till the time it closes. There is a peak in the afternoon, and it averages 20 cars per hour during that peak with 4 employees on site. So we're looking at 24 parking spaces at its peak at any given day, and we are proposing to install 36. So what that does is on that north side of the parking lot, we're basically removing the parking spaces that would be blocked on that side of the parking lot. Just a little more information about the delivery truck. It is a WB62. It comes to the site once a week, typically first thing on Monday mornings. Their average loading, unloading time for the truck to be on site is between 45 minutes and an hour and a half. So it's very quick. It happens one time a week, and they're gone. Throughout the week, they will get deliveries from smaller box trucks, bringing bread, eggs, that sort of thing. But the big truck comes once a week, and it typically happens at first thing in the morning. The idea is to get them there before the store opens. Traffic, weather, sometimes they don't make it in before the store opens, but the sites are designed such that the truck can get on site, make all of its maneuvers, deliver its load, and get off site without crossing over any parking spaces or any landscaped areas or getting off of the asphalt. So that is the issue with the parking spaces. Let's see, number 8 is the applicant executes and records a developer's agreement. That is standard for us. We do that at every project on every development that we have. The applicant provides the engineer's estimate of public improvements and landscape to be approved by the municipal engineer and provide a bond in the amount of 110% of the approved amount, and that is standard for us as well. That's normal. We do that on every project. And we also provide a copy of the final approved plan, which is, again, standard. That's normal procedure for us. So those were the 10 conditions that the Planning Commission is recommending. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions if anyone has any more.
Just as a question on the parking then, were your preliminary plans 43 parking spaces?
Correct.
Okay. What in the ordinance requires how many?
43.
43. Okay.
So it is 1 per 200, I believe, is the parking requirement. And basically what we're doing in reducing the number down to 36 parking spaces, we are getting our ratio dropped to 1 per 300 square feet. So it's, and that's gross square footage. It's a little deceiving. A lot of municipalities go by the gross square footage. A lot of them go by the retail sales floor. So essentially what you're doing is parking for the sales floor. You're not parking for the stock room and for the offices. So normally we would have, I say normally, in other municipalities we would have an ordinance of 1 per 200 for sales floor. And that it typically will get us to the point to where just about every store that we build, we hit those parking ordinances. They won't need those parking spaces. They'll sit empty. Basically, all it's doing is providing more impervious surface on site, which in turn increases the size of the detention and stormwater facility that we have to have and impacts water downstream. So we're just basically putting in more hard surfaces with those additional parking spaces that we won't use.
Okay. Other questions or concerns?
Yeah.
Just out of sheer curiosity, you also have a Dollar General very close by, and that's what I was wondering.
This is a relo.
I've been out there for a while, so.
Yes, they're moving out of that spot. They ran into a problem. I guess it's been probably 10 years ago. They recognized a problem that those inline stores that you always used to see them in, they were relying on landlords to maintain the buildings, the parking lots, the signage. Everything was part of the rent. Well, the landlords weren't doing it. All they were doing were basically raising their rent. So they'd have roof leaks, potholes in their driveways, and they couldn't get the landlords to do anything. So it got so bad that they made a decision that they were going to build ground-up, purpose-built stores just for them, and they would maintain their own facilities. So this is basically the culmination of that.
And how many stores do you have with Dollar General?
How many is in the chain?
Yeah,
They're approaching 19,000.
19,000.
Yes.
Wow.
My company, we have been working with them since '08, and we have personally constructed 854 stores in 39 states for Dollar General. So we buy the property, we build the buildings, we lease them back to them. So they don't own any of their own buildings, they lease everything they have.
It's a lot of stores.
It is a lot of stores. They are recession-proof. I think they're the only company I've ever seen that they are truly recession-proof.
As far as the landscaping, you had indicated local nurseries or whatever, but how local is local? I mean, is it like a 20-mile radius? Or
I believe the engineer went out 15 miles from the site and called every supplier that he could find.
Actually, I know like Musser Nursery up in Indiana is a major nursery.
Okay.
And meaning I think you should expand your search a little further.
Meaning you want bigger plants.
Yeah?
Is that what I'm...
Yeah.
We will do everything we can to get that 4-foot height.
Yeah, I know neighbors of mine have gone to like Steubenville, Ohio, which it sounds like a long distance, but it's not actually.
Understood.
And the point is, if you could just look a little further, not saying you'll find it, but I think you should search.
We'll certainly do everything we can. You know, one other thing that we did notice, we looked at, tried to find the most recent developments in town and to see what their landscaping looked like. And we couldn't find anything that had any new development or recent development that had any kind of shrubs around their parking lot that were even close to 4 feet high. Zero. We found zero.
So I have one question. I work near a Dollar General, a fairly new one in a town just west of here. Okay. And how do you handle the boxes and whatnot? Because I always see carts and junk on the side of the building for some time period.
We do install a, it typically has 2 dumpsters in it. It's surrounded by a 6-foot wood privacy fence and gates. So the way that the delivery system works is they make their orders on Fridays. It goes to the distribution center. They fill racks, rolling racks, and the trucks will pick up those racks. They typically have 3 stores on one truck. So whenever they get to the site, they have lifts on the back of the trucks. They lift those racks to the ground, roll them in, bring the empties back out, put them back on the truck, and leave. I have noticed in a few locations where those racks sit there for some time in certain situations. The only thing I can figure is that they didn't have room on the truck to take them during that time. The operations of the store typically is not left up to us. We're not,
Right.
we're not privy to it, but
That's an operational question.
it is. And I really don't know why they would leave them sitting out there, but I have seen that on occasion from time to time. But for the most part, the way that it's supposed to work is they're supposed to take those empties with them when they leave.
Okay.
In the past, council has required that any type of equipment like that have a barrier that makes it not visible, so just so your council is aware of that.
Couple comments, Mr. President. The traffic generated by the store did not require a scoping study by PennDOT. However, as indicated, they did recommend the turning lane, and that was incorporated in the site plan. However, according to our subdivision and land development ordinance and zoning ordinance, if a intersection is a failing intersection as a result of the improvement, then there has to be improvements made. And that's what's outlined in the information that was provided in the briefing. The Ringertown intersection with 66 will go from, I believe, a C intersection to an F. Is right. There are limitations there to correct that, and both Planning Commission and staff agree that there is no viable solution to that. If council would agree to that, then that has to be included as a waiver of that intersection with Ringertown and Route 66. The second item would be a waiver on the facade requirements on the south side and the east side of the building. Dollar General has been cooperative in improving and meeting the expectations of the Planning Commission in Murrysville on the site. I'm curious as to why Dollar General's sign wasn't in the block there on the design shown.
The only reason that it's not there is this is a perspective we have worked up with our architects, and I take it to various different municipalities. A lot of times we will send this ahead of time whenever we're requesting a rezone or something like that. Dollar General has requested that we not let their name out until after we get through the rezoning process, and that this is just one of
Okay. Well, he would be required to meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance for the size of the sign, so that'll be taken care of as part of the permitting process once the building is under construction. The applicant's engineer did provide us with a parking study, and that was reviewed by staff. Be my recommendation that we accept that to reduce the number of parking spaces there. It makes sense, and to provide the loading area that's necessary for the delivery of product there. The landscaping it was an 8-foot wide strip, and they did provide the information on the inkberry and the boxwood. And apparently they found plants approaching 3 feet there. So I would encourage Michael to continue to look, and he can stay in touch, and if not, then there will be a waiver required on that by council. The final note is, and it's more municipal related, the owner of the property is making arrangements with the Westmoreland Heritage Trail to provide a piece of ground there for the expansion of the trail. In working with their engineer, that property will be subdivided off and essentially have a lot line revision, and then the owner of the property will work through the final details, he and his attorney, with Westmoreland
I
Heritage.
think we've actually changed that agreement, and he is giving it to us. It's going to be part of the sale for this, and we are going to give the easement to the county for.
Okay. So whatever works out, it's going to end up being a subdivision of land there, so. And that'll be handled administratively because it's a simple subdivision.
Now, is that trail going to go underground or is it a bridge?
It's going underground. It'll be
under the
tunneled
highway.
under 66 and actually come out right next to Dollar General.
It's actually on part of our property that we're purchasing. So we're required, in order for the bike trail to go through there, we're required to do the subdivision and provide that land for the bike trail.
Okay.
As far as the traffic with that left-hand turn lane, so that's a southbound left-hand, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Southbound left-hand turn lane. What is the sight distance as far as, I mean, my question's mainly
About a little to
the,
the right, Mike.
the triaxle traffic that you see on 66 is unbelievable, and I mean, they don't go slow. You know, is that a downhill slope there? I'm just trying to picture
It's
it.
pretty flat there. On the previous site plan, there is some vegetation on the east side of the property that's to be cleared by Dollar General to increase the sight distance for northbound traffic.
Right. And so the southbound turn lane, is traffic going to be allowed to turn left out of Dollar General to traffic coming southbound?
Yes, it's a full movement.
Okay, so it's full, okay,
And that was reviewed and approved by PennDOT.
okay. Huh.
It's on the screen now. You can see
Yeah,
the.
I see it here. It's on mine in front of me.
Okay. Any final questions or concerns from anyone?
Yeah, just for my information, that's a Delmont address there, right?
That's right.
But it's under the municipality of Murrysville?
That's correct. That's the last property in Murrysville.
Is it? Okay.
Yep.
You can see
I just
the,
wondered about
see the
that.
dashed line, that's where Murrysville stops.
Part of Salem Township.
Yeah,
Salem Township, yes.
that's what I thought.
When you go to get bread, you'll be in Salem Township.
Yeah,
When you check out, you'll be back in the
the
municipal.
back corner of the building, right?
Sort of like Walmart.
Okay.
That's it.
Any issues?
We weren't sure that we were going to get all of the items that were still outstanding pulled together in time for the meeting because we had to get the agenda done early last week. So this will come back for approval to council meeting, first meeting in September.
Okay, wonderful. All right, thank you, Mr. Gage.
Thank you.
19,000 stores.
Should have bought stock.
You think of it, though.
Hey, everyone, that
How many
brings us-
mom and pops of, how many mom and pop stores?
Or be a developer for them.
Brings us to our council action items. First, under 13A, can I have a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the joint petition and stipulation of settlement under Tax Assessment Appeal Number 5729 of 2019 for the property located at tax map number 49-21-00-0-057, bearing a physical address of 1 Westco Lane.
Second?
Okay, thank you, Jamie and Tony. Is this Mike or George?
Either one. On this property, the initial appraisal that was prepared by the property owner was $1,700,000. after the appeal was taken, property was sold to the current owner, who's following through with the assessment appeal, and the purchase price was $1,825,000. So the value that's being used for the market value is 180, the true price. And the assessments, the only thing that's unusual on this one is that the 2023's value, assessment value, is going from 224 for year 22 to 200,000 for 223, and that's because of the timing of the settlement. So at this point, it's been agreed to by the school district.
Okay. Obviously, the school district is the party with the most interest in this
Yeah.
property tax. Any questions or concerns from council? Oh, Jim?
One side note. That's the common level ratio at work, right there.
Yep.
That's the point we were trying to make.
Yeah, well,
Right.
$24,000 reduction in assessed value.
Allegheny County's having issues with that. Questions or concerns from council? Okay. Yep. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. It is settled, thank you. That brings us to 15A under engineering. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to consider reducing the letter of credit held to ensure completion of the required improvements at the Reagan Ridge development by $89,937.93.
Second.
Mac and Jamie. Mike?
Staff would recommend adoption. The current value of the agreement is $615,000. This reduction will take that amount down to around $525,000. Work has been completed and overseen by our engineering manager, so recommend approval of this item.
Okay. Questions or concerns? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes, thank you. Is there any old business this evening? Any new business? No executive session, no outstanding action items, so one more motion, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you, everyone.